I bring you to the entrance of a derelict corporate campus, ground zero for the outbreak. We stand on the jagged edge of the valley, a graveyard of ego, witnessing the systemic zombification of the Silicon elite. Submitted for your approval, the AGI Undead. It was early yesterday morning. YouTube hit me with an absolute banger straight out of the gate. You know that rare kind of content, the kind that hijacks your brain before you've even had your methadone? That chemical imbalance came courtesy of fellow YouTuber House of L. And when I say fellow YouTuber, I mean that in the same way myself and insert famous male celeb hottie are both technically human. L has a PhD in computer science, a deep understanding of AI system, and hangs out with Patrick Boyle. So yeah, not only does she have tech credentials, but she's also plugged into the rap game. There's a specific kind of clarity that comes from a perfectly timed insight. Her thesis that Meta has officially entered its zombie phase not only refocused how I view major AI players, it also did something more profound. It provided the missing link to a larger pattern I'd been noticing without fully grasping it. It made me realize that Meta isn't the outlier. They're just the biggest member of the horde. The whole tech ecosystem is undergoing a systemic zombification. Now, L was riffing on a New York Times opinion piece by Julia Engwin that argued Meta is in a slow decline phase, like AOL or Yahoo. They're right, Facebook feeds are full of AI slop, user numbers are dipping for the first time ever, and Zuckerberg is burning cash on failed AI bets while the core business withers. But I think even that diagnosis is too gentle, because a zombie is never just one zombie. If zombie outbreaks work like normal business decline, The Walking Dead would have been a 6-minute short film. Rick Grimes ventilates one undead child, everyone laughs, society survives, and we all go back to Applebee's. That's not how infections work. Zombies spread, they bite, they turn functioning organisms into diseased replicas of themselves. And if Meta, a company that houses billions of social connections, private conversations, ad systems, political influence pipelines, and enough behavioral data to make Bentham rise from the grave, is becoming a zombie, this isn't a corporate obituary, it's a contagion event. Yahoo declining was embarrassing. Well, embarrassing at first until the whole Russian hackers thing, kicking it while it was down, caused it to go from funny to oh shit, my private data just hit the dark web. Meta declining could be infrastructurally catastrophic. Fear the walking web developer levels of bad. If Facebook shambles into senility while still clutching global communications infrastructure, that's not MySpace nostalgia, that's digital Chernobyl. And worse, Meta isn't alone. The bite has spread. Microsoft has the fever. Grok may be dragging one leg behind it through a Memphis server farm. This isn't a company problem anymore. This is an AGI ego plague. I don't know if it's time to make for the proverbial bunker, but you might want to get that download of Wikipedia topped up and keep your shotgun hand. Part 1. Grok, Fear and Loathing in the GPU Desert. Let's start with Grok because Grok is currently pulling off the funniest unintentional pivot in tech history. Everything happening to the big boys is happening to Grok, just on a smaller, more desperate scale. Elon Musk spent billions building Colossus 1, a data center in Memphis with 220,000 NVIDIA GPUs. The goal? Build world-changing AI to solve the universe. But in a move that screams zombie logic, SpaceX AI, the new shell for XAI, just signed a deal to lease that compute capacity to Anthropic. Leaked reports have put the current utilization of the data center at around 11%, meaning roughly 1 in 10 of the GPUs are being used at any given time. So it makes sense that you would want someone to do something with all that compute. However, with the frantic rate at which these things were built, it really gave the impression that there was a use case, that there was a reason for the season. Instead, it's built and then sorta what comes next is being asked. This is a great example of a solution being built in search of a problem. SpaceX AI paid a hefty price to build that quickly. The good, fast, cheap project management triangle had to add on a hefty penalty to build that quickly. And for what? So it could sit idle? That's craziness. Imagine constructing the Death Star, only discover your highest margin use case is subleasing laser capacity to Darth Vader's cousin. That isn't disruption. That's becoming WeWork with heat sinks. This is what happens when you start with, we have giant compute, instead of, what uniquely valuable problem do we solve? It's classic Silicon Valley stimulant psychosis. Mistaking possession of expensive machinery for strategic coherence. A GPU mountain is not a business model. It's just an expensive mountain until you know what war you're fighting. So Grok risks becoming the first great AI ghost town, an empire of silicon built to dominate the future, now flirting with the possibility of becoming premium rack space. Part 2. Meta, the alpha horde and the virile failure. Meta remains the patient zero of this outbreak. To understand why, we have to look at their competitive advantage, the possession of the unique capability that allows a firm to generate greater value than rivals. For Meta, that advantage is an economic moat built on network effects. A product becomes more valuable as more people use it. They spent $80 billion building legless conference call goblins. This is where gonzo journalism breaks down, because no drug known to man could invent something funnier than Reality Labs. Reality Labs, a division so named because irony was apparently dead on arrival. Meta didn't build what people wanted. They built what executives hallucinated people should want. Nobody was begging to attend HR meetings as a torso in a sterile Playmobil nightmare. People wanted games, entertainment, escapism. Meta gave us corporate purgatory with no lower extremities. That wasn't innovation. That was a solution wandering the desert in search of a problem. And when the metaverse face-planted like a Segway off a cliff, did Meta return to fundamentals? Did they say perhaps our unmatched social and commercial data should power revolutionary ad tools, creator systems, or moderation AI? Of course not. They pivoted directly into general AI prestige warfare, because apparently building the greatest ad tech empire in history wasn't enough. They wanted AGI. They wanted OpenAI's crown. They wanted to build God. And according to lawsuits, when they realized they lack enough legal training material, well, why buy books when you can allegedly torrent civilization? As someone who has a paltry 10 terabyte RAID array home lab, I can't really throw too many stones in that regard. Torrenting is pretty sweet. The only cope I have is my bank account's in the negative, and they're multi-billionaire. So if the reported filings are true, this is where the zombie metaphor stops being metaphorical and starts looking like corporate grave robbing. This is also where I really want to encourage you once again to check out House of L's video. The link is in the description. She really does a great job of explaining that if Meta didn't have their head up their own ass, they would realize their greatest asset is their proprietary data on consumer behavior. They should be building the world's greatest AI advertising agent, a tool to help small businesses automate their entire sales funnel based on their unique data. Instead, they chose a legal gamble. Internal memos from April 23 shows Zuckerberg personally killed licensing negotiations with publishers. Why? Because if we license one single book, we won't be able to lean into the fair use strategy. They allegedly torrented 267 terabytes of pirated material from sites they internally called datasets we know to be pirated. They are hollowing out their ethics and their bank account to chase a vision because their ego won't let them just be a highly profitable ad company. Now, L doesn't speculate why they chose not to do the things that make sense, and that's where I'm going to step in and make wild, unfounded, accusatory accusations and speculative speculation. There is a persistent joke in tech that AI stands for actually Indian. The idea that behind the curtain, it's just thousands of low-paid workers in developing countries manually typing spreadsheets. Is Meta AI's dream failing because their data is actually a mess? Or is it pure ego? Look at the Model Capability Initiative launched in April 2026. Meta began surveilling the keystrokes and mouse movements of 72,000 US employees to train AI to replace them. This is corporate auto-cannibalism, like a zombie eating its own arm because it's hungry. Meta is consuming the institutional knowledge of its workforce to train a replacement that doesn't yet work. They are hollowing out their brain to keep the body shuffling toward AGI. Once again, why? Why are they doing exactly what every second semester business school major has learned is the exact wrong thing to do? Surely there must be a reason. Facebook was staffed by the best and brightest from 6 continents. What is causing all these really smart people to behave like the undead horde? Well, stay tuned to the end where we go over the autopsy of the undead. Before we get too deep into those accusatory speculations, we have one more patient that needs their toe tag. Part 3, Microsoft, the well-dressed zombie. Then there's Microsoft. Microsoft should be the safest house in this apocalypse. They own spreadsheet, documents, enterprise software, operating systems. They practically own beige office reality itself. Microsoft owns the high switching costs of the enterprise world. No one wants to leave Excel, but they too have been bitten. In April 2026, Microsoft added a clause to its terms of service labeling Copilot as for entertainment purposes only. They are charging $30 a month month for a productivity tool that they legally define as a toy. If AI were a practical productivity revolution, Microsoft should be the undisputed emperor. And yet somehow there are growing signs that outsiders keep finding ways to look more nimble. This is deeply weird. Anthropic, an outsider, has released agents that work better and are more tightly integrated into the Office ecosystem than Microsoft's own native tool Copilot. How? Because Microsoft is chasing the god of AGI instead of solving the functional pain of their users. Microsoft is slowly shuffling into becoming a company so large, so entrenched, and so desperate to look visionary that it forgets its greatest opportunity is simply making Excel terrifyingly powerful. Copilot is now a zombie, shuffling imitation of work that causes headaches for security admins and offers no real legal protection to users paying for it. Alright, the autopsy of the AI undead. Let's perform the autopsy. It is the question that haunts every sane observer of the tech industry. Why are these companies behaving like absolute morons? Why are they refusing to take the easy wins that are sitting right in front of them? Meta owns the most valuable behavioral data set on the planet, allegedly. Yet they are out here pirating textbooks and getting sued into the sun. Microsoft owns the Office ecosystem, yet their flagship AI is legally a toy. Grok is sitting in a $27 billion data center and has essentially been reduced to a landlord for its own competitors. There are 3 specific strains of the virus causing this zombification. Let's break them down. Strain 1, the ego virus. This is strategic incoherence at its finest. In business school, the first thing you learn is competitive advantage, the possession of a unique capability that allows your firm to generate more value than its rival. For Meta, that advantage is their legendary advertising engine. They have the data, the scale, and the infrastructure to make the tool that helps every small business on earth close deals automatically. But for Mark Zuckerberg, efficient ads aren't world-changing. He doesn't want to build a tool, he wants to build a god. He is chasing a vision of AGI because the scope of specialized ad tool is simply too small for his ego. They would rather faceplant trying to build a digital soul than succeed at being the world's best advertising company. He should have watched a lot more Mad Men and a lot less Ready Player One. It's the business equivalent of a zombie that refuses to eat a perfectly good brain because it's holding out for a golden brain that doesn't exist. Strain 2, the actually Indians theory. We often assume these giants have a pristine, rare data set because of their age and their reach. But what if the data is actually crap? There is that persistent meme. In Meta's case, what if 2 decades of Facebook data is just a disorganized pile of AI slop and legacy bot traffic? If that data isn't structured, labeled, or clean, it's useless for training. Maybe the reason they are pirating books is that their own internal data is so polluted, it would effectively lobotomize any model trained on it. Behind the high-tech curtain, there might just be a massive pile of unrefined garbage that they have no idea how to process without massive human intervention. Strain 3, the incumbent's curse. Look at Microsoft. They have the ultimate economic moat and massive high switching costs, but they are terrified of their own shadow. The reason they added that entertainment purposes only asterisk to Copilot is pure liability. They are so large and such a massive legal target that they have paralyzed themselves. They cannot achieve the market product fit because they are too busy hollowing out their institutional knowledge to satisfy shareholders and lawyers. They have the insider's edge, and yet they are being lapped by outsiders like Anthropic because they are chasing a vision instead of solving the acute functional pain of their users. Then we have the Grok Tesla situation. Tesla has the driving data, sure, but their refusal to use LiDAR means they have hit a physical ceiling on their execution. In the business world, you can have all the data in the world, but if your hardware is fundamentally limited, you cannot achieve minimum efficient scale. In a high-stakes market like autonomous driving, it doesn't matter how many GPUs you have in Memphis if your eyes are blind to the reality of the road. The fundamental law: lifetime value is greater than customer acquisition cost. Ultimately, these companies are hollowing themselves out because they have forgotten the fundamental law of business. Customer acquisition cost is what you spend to get a customer. Lifetime value is what they pay you over time. Right now, these giants are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in customer acquisition costs to acquire a future, in quotation marks, that may never actually pay them back the lifetime value. They aren't thinking, they're shuffling. They're chasing this AGI infection because it's the only thing that makes them feel alive. While their core businesses decompose in real time, they have traded differentiation, the very thing that makes them unique, for a hunger for brains they don't even know how to digest. Phew. Alright, rant mostly over. Alright, thanks for sticking with me this long. Normally I don't talk about specific tech news, more source code examples and whatever I've got going on in my IDE, so this article was quite a bit different from that. Please leave a comment if you enjoyed downloaded it and let me know what you thought about it. If you hated it, don't worry, I don't plan on making this my new format. Hopefully I will be back to coding tutorials soon. Sadly, tragically, I'm actually currently out of tokens, so my AI IDEs sort of went back to being just regular IDEs. I'm basically Cinderella after midnight, so all I can do is look on longingly and bitch. With that being said, let's wrap this up. I am working on a Go.Blobber style game, an old school dungeon crawler, all the old DOS Wizardry series style games. I'm gonna post some more info about that on my blog in the coming days, and I want to open it up to the community to get help and suggestions in real time as it's being coded. So please subscribe if you want to hear more about that in the future. Until next time.